You are not your past. You're you. You're you right now. You might have done some things you wish you hadn't done. Don't dwell on that. You learn from it, that's fine, but don't dwell on it. Just keep moving. Keep moving. Use it as fuel. Say, never again. I get what I did wrong, but don't think that you're that person that made those mistakes. You're the person who's learned. I think that endurance, enduring something, and building up that ability to endure things, that's also a very important mechanism that you could apply to everyday life. Like that, the mechanism of understanding how to endure. Because a lot of people are just running from discomfort. They're running from it. They're just avoiding it. It's so easy to. And like if you get distracted for a second, you're like, let me check my phone. You just start going through your phone and looking at bullshit, and you're just distracting yourself from the tiniest frustration of boredom. Just the little, we don't get bored anymore. Or if we get bored for these tiny amounts of time, then you get distracted. So your distraction is eliminating your boredom. But the problem with that is like, there's certain thoughts that only come to you when you're thinking, when you don't have any input coming in. When we're constantly looking at our phones, the only input you're getting is input from other people. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes you get good stuff out of that. But it's like a diet of only fruit. Like, hey, you need some protein. Yeah. Like you need to get some other things in your diet. And I think having discomfort in your diet, like having it as a regular part of your life, it minimizes the amount of other kinds of bullshit. And I think that insanity and greatness are next door neighbors, and they borrow each other's sugar. There's something about mastery, like true mastery, that requires you to shut off massive areas of your life, personal areas, relationships, education. My education was a joke. I mean, until I was 21 years old, until I started doing stand-up comedy, I didn't read books. I mean, I might have read a Stephen King book here and there to kill time while I was on the train on my way to training. But there was no desire to educate myself. If I was educating myself, it was maybe reading the Book of Five Rings to learn better strategy, to be a better fighter. That was all it was.
Or was there ever a point where you said, I'm a little out of balance, I need to go the other way?
Well, I realized I was a flawed person for sure. And I think in realizing that you're a flawed person...
What helped you realize that?
Just fucking up. Just being an idiot. Realizing, girls would get mad at me, or maybe guys would get mad at me. Whatever it was, I realized that I had flaws, I knew that I was... And then also failing at comedy. One of the hardest things to do is to go from being really great at something to sucking at something. And that something that you suck at is now your path. And that's what I found myself in comedy. I could get laughs every now and then, but I knew I wasn't anything special. I knew I was terrible. And there was something exciting about being terrible because I had potential, because there was potential for growth. If you start doing it and you're great at it, like naturally, like maybe I wouldn't have had the motivation to do it as a living for 25 years like I've done. I don't know. But at that time, making that transition from martial arts competition to being a comedian, that's when I started going down the road of balance and started trying to balance myself as a person. And I started trying to almost educate myself to have more things to talk about on stage. And then along the way, my curiosity started to blossom. And then I started to just be interested in things for being interested in them. And as I got better as a comedian, I became less worried about what other people thought about me and more worried about just improving and keeping this sort of momentum going. Oftentimes people confuse discipline with focus. And this is why that's important. There are things that some people can excel at because they're focused on them and because they're drawn to it and they have an incredible passion for it. Versus, like, you tell a guy, like, hey, you're going to study to be an electrical engineer. And it's like, I don't want to be a fucking electrical engineer. Well, you got to have discipline. And so they don't have the drive, and they don't get excited about it, and they don't do. But if you tell that guy, whatever, you're going to be a golfer, and he loves golf, and he's practicing every day, and he becomes a professional golfer. And you say, well, I thought that guy didn't have any discipline. Well, it's not that he didn't have any discipline. He's just not interested in that other thing. I was never a disciplined kid, but I would find things that I loved, and I was obsessed. And I always felt embarrassed by it because people would say, oh, your son, like to my mom, your son is so disciplined. And she'd be like, my son's fucking crazy. Like, he's not disciplined. He finds these things and that's all he does all day long. Like, it's not really discipline because he doesn't clean his room. He's fucking lazy. There's all sorts of shit he's supposed to do. I never did my homework. There's all the, but if I had a thing that I was into, I was obsessed.
You were crazy about it.
But it would bother me that I didn't really have discipline. Like, if I had jobs that I had to do, I didn't do a good job at them, like construction jobs that I had. But when it came to martial arts... How did you find those things, though? How did you find those things? You stumble upon them?
Lucky.
Just got lucky. Martial arts, I just got lucky. And it clicked with me, like, almost immediately. I became obsessed, you know, and I wanted to excel at it. And so I was just doing it all day long. And I think the more you choose to embark in these struggles, these especially physical and mental struggles, because I consider both martial arts, yoga, and actually even trail running, I consider the mental struggles as much as physical struggles. Mm-hmm. Like, because I could stop anytime I want. I'm halfway up the hill, I can go, fuck this. So I'm walking the rest of the way. Yep. Call my dog over, put him on the leash. I'm like, we're walking, buddy. You know? But, or you could say, no, this is what I'm doing today. I have a very clear plan in front of me. My plan is we're doing 4 miles today. This is where we start. This is where we end. This is what we're doing. Sometimes when things are really hard to do, you think, oh my God, I got to stop doing this. But once you do it and you complete it, you have a satisfaction, this sense of satisfaction that you did something really difficult that is irreplaceable. And some kids never get that and they just stay fat and stupid their whole life. Right. And some kids, they get these little lessons and then they realize, like, you can push yourself and you can get somewhere. You know, some kids get real lucky and they get involved in sports or martial arts early. And one of the best benefits of sports is you realize that through hard work, you get improvement. Through improvement, you get success. Through success, you get that big dopamine rush. You get that good feeling. Right. You get confidence. Yeah. You get this knowledge. You get the girl. Yeah, you get, sometimes, I didn't. But you get this knowledge that you can do something that's difficult and you can overcome, even though it feels like you can't.